concerning. I mean, obviously, I've been here a very, very long time. It bothers me when I feel that the public has lost a sense of trust in the process, with good reason, in the respect that I think if we would just all get our heads together and have contract reform passed already in this legislature, then we'd be paving the way toward righting the wrongs, or not wrongs, but righting the ways that have been. The bottom line here is not who, the bottom line is that we don't have in place contract reforms that have been approved by this legislature as something we insist upon before we vote. And I think that's what everyone on this side of the aisle is trying to say, that we need some confirmation of the contract reforms. That I have to applaud the administration for putting together something with Frank Saab at the head of it. I have my greatest respect for Frank. I met him many, many years ago when NYPA came around, and honestly, I just don't understand what's taking so long to do the obvious and give us something to realize is really in place to be our guiding principles as we go forward. And I think that's what everyone's saying right now.
I'm going to make the last statement, and it's going to be very brief. First of all, I believe that the minority is in its right to express their concern over the fact that change is too slow in coming, according to the minority. However, today we're going to be putting forward a local law that addresses campaign finance reform. And let me say to you, nothing is cast in stone. This today it goes through the Rules Committee, and speaking of the ZOB Committee, it's the ZOB Committee is now they're going to be reviewing this piece of legislation and see whether or not it passes the muster. I'm saying to you that this is a beginning of bringing about campaign finance reform here in Nassau County. And if you wish to abrogate your responsibilities, fine. In the meantime, we need to go forward and conduct the business of the Nassau County Legislature. And with that, I will call my first contract. Contract A48, a resolution authorizing the Director of Nassau County Office of Purchasing to award and execute a contract between the County of Nassau acting on behalf of Nassau County Police Department and Vertra Systems Inc. Moved by legislator Dunn, second by legislator Capel. All right, Sergeant?
Good afternoon, Sergeant Greg Stefano from the Police Department. Item 848-15 is to authorize a purchase order for a firearms training simulator for the Nassau County Police Department with Vertra Systems Inc. This simulator is a 5-screen simulator that will wrap around 300 degrees around the trainee, and will incorporate, the system we're getting will incorporate 149 scenarios with multiple outcomes, including active shooter. This system, if the trainee performs poorly, the scenario escalates. If the trainee performs well in the scenario, it de-escalates the situation. This system will be able to train people in sidearms, pistols, rifles, taser, and OC, and it's used with laser technology. The current system we have is over 13 years old. There's no support anymore for it. They've been having trouble with it at the range, and the company itself does not conduct business in the United States anymore. The system that we're getting for this purchase is one 5-screen for a 300-degree training that's going to be at the range, and we're also getting a single screen that will be at the police academy to start the recruits in training it, and then they transition in the range. The training will advance to the 5-screen training. The cost is $482,825, and it's capital funds.
Legislator Capel, Legislator Manello, and then
Sergeant, I see that it was advertised and there were 33 vendors notified and 1 bid.
Yes.
What I'm concerned about, and I'd like to explain this, was this written in such a, in in a broad enough sense or scope of requirements to enable sufficient numbers of bidders to actually come forward? Why did only one come forward? Are they the only people who manufacture this type of system at this point?
Yeah, for this advanced wraparound training, I believe they're one of the few companies that could provide this type of technology.
There are others?
I don't think they were able to provide, from all the people that were sent out to, no one could provide the 300 degree.
So in essence, they ended up being a sole source?
Well, I guess from the bidding, yes.
In other words, there are no others that are qualified. It's all qualified there. So
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So my understanding then is that this additional training tool is designed to enhance the skills that the officers are going to need in difficult situations, correct?
Yeah, with, officers go out in the street, and in certain scenarios, they have to use deadly physical force. This allows them to use it under a full training scenario with laser technology, and to hone in skills, in a fashion that you don't use deadly physical force while you're doing it.
So for those incredibly difficult moments in which they have literally a moment to make a decision, this gives them a little bit of training ahead of time to perhaps, to give them additional skills to be able to make the right choice there.
Yes,
So it protects them, it protects the public.
yes.
Thank you.
Legislator Dunn.
Okay, are there any other municipalities that use this device? Whether it be FBI or any kind of federal or state government or our neighbors?
Yes, it's currently, they've sold systems to the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, U.S. Marshals, Los Angeles County Sheriffs, County of Morris, New Jersey, County of Bergen, New Jersey, United Police Department of Salt Lake City, Cook County Department of Homeland Security, New Hampshire, Orange County, Hillsborough County, Tennessee Highway Patrol, and New Jersey Transit Police.
Okay, so I was just thinking it sounds like an incredible piece of a tool that we need in this county, and all the counties should have it. What's the odds of us training others for using this and securing some kind of income from them to train them? Well, do we do reciprocity training?
Yeah, I think we do reciprocity training.
Okay. Right.
Especially the new academy is going to be set up in such a way to do reciprocity training.
And there's been no complaints from all those places that you mentioned that do have it?
No, our firearms unit has researched this, and they had no complaints on this item.
Excellent. Thank you.
Minority Leader, Ron.
How are you, Sergeant?
Good, how are you?
I think we all agree with the merit of the firearms training simulator, and obviously we believe that it will protect officers and be able to train them. I do have questions in regards to the actual administering of the contract. This is a part of Capital Plan Project 50404.
Yes.
And obviously this contract has been funded.
Say,
This contract has the appropriate funding.
yes.
And how is this contract, or how is this RFP process administered?
We submitted the request through purchasing, and purchasing put out the bid on our behalf.
Are you familiar with any of the emails or phone conversations between purchasing or possibly through any of the top vendors? The other 33 vendors? I mean, do you know of it?
I wasn't involved in the bidding, the purchasing process.
Okay. Has your office had any contact with the administration?
The administration of purchasing
Administration of the county?
in regards to this contract?
In regards to this contract?
No.
Thank you.
I have a question, Sergeant.
Yes.
How many of the officers would be trained in this?
We currently have a single screen system that we use. We train every recruit coming out of the academy. We currently are using a single screen, but we've been having a lot of problems with it over the past couple of years, and we're not getting, there's no support for it anymore to enable us to fix it to a workable like it used to be. So that's why we decided to go with the new system. So, and then and this one is actually the newest technology available. So we're going to be training every recruit that goes through the academy.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the legislators? Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of contract A, hold on, 48, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the item. All right, we have 4, 2, 3, all right?
I just note for the record that abstention on the rules of procedure is the equivalent of a no vote. You can call it what you want, but it's the equivalent of a no vote.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, for providing clarification, but we know exactly what abstention means, and abstention means that we do not have enough information to make a decision today. So rather than trying to miscue the information and try to skew your position, your political position, we know exactly what abstention means. We do not have all the information, and as I said before, the information that is missing is contract reform. If the right disclosures were before us, we would be able to make an informed decision. However, if you've made the decision that you will make that decision regardless of those reforms, that is your prerogative. That is not ours. Thank you.
Well, we believe this item is one of many items that is more important than that political grant statement. We want to see the business development continue.
Political grandstanding. Now, I'm making up what happened in court on Friday?
You said that you used the term.
Am I making it up? Am I making it up, Deputy Presiding Officer?
Well, no, let me just respond. Okay, there was a reference to an investigation. We had an indicted legislator sitting on your side. So if you're going to start worrying about investigations, it's a relatively new phenomenon.
Yes, and that legislation wasn't proposing and overseeing either. And that legislator was removed from those committees.
And legislator, your side, there's no your side, our side. This is our side. Let's get together.
And I'm not going to have cross debate.
According to whom is that abstention and no vote? Is that Richard Rules of Order?
No, it's according
Is that
to
Richard Rules of Order? Counselor, according to
I'm
whom?
sorry.
According to parliamentary procedure.
Really? Can you cite that? Could you please show that to me?
Yes.
Please provide that. Thank you, Counselor.
Yes, ma'am.
The item passed 4-3. Okay, the next 4-0-3. Excuse me. All right.
Thank you.
The next item is B21, a resolution authorizing the county executive to award and execute a contract between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and Safety Marketing, Inc. Motion, please. Moved by legislator Dunn, second by legislator Gopal. Okay, Mr. Arnold.
Ken Arnold, Public Works. B21 is a publicly bid contract to provide safety marking or pavement markings on county roads. It's part of a federal funded project. We get 80% reimbursement for this. We had 2 bidders, and safety marking was the lowest responsible bidder.
Any questions of Mr. Arnold on this particular contract? Any public comment? There being none, all those...
Yes. Public
I
comment.
have a slip for you. I mean, it has...
It's got B21 on it.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, and you may...
I got 2 degrees. I know what I wrote. Thank you. Meet the Meredith.
Well, they had it in so many different places, so I had to keep looking.
You
Okay.
don't give it so much space, so I wanted to make sure that I was specific, presiding officer. My question with regard to this, and I'm glad that the gentleman mentioned that it was federally funded. Also, I am happy to note that there is someone who is finally speaking up with regard to the contracting scenario or shenanigans that have been taking place in this county for a long period of time, and I'm not mentioning any names. It speaks for itself. I need to know what is the actual vetting process as it pertains to inclusion of veterans as contractors as well as employees. Because that's a federally mandated, because it's federally funded. So I am asking the question as it pertains to what has been put in place to make sure that this contract and any other federal contract that has at least $1 of federal funds connected to it has been inclusive of veteran entrepreneurs and employers.
Meredith, we're going to, Miss Meredith.
Miss Meredith, thank you.
We're going to refer that to DPW and get your answer from them.
Today?
I don't know about today.
Well, why can't I get an answer today if you're going to vote on it today clearly, if you're not tabling anything?
That's not the issue at hand, okay?
The issue at hand is that it's going to be voted on, which means it's going to be contracted, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're already if the chicken is already out of the coop, what difference does it make if I get an answer and you're in violation of federal law?
I believe this contract went out to bid. All right, and according to the backup, there were only 2 firms that bid on this contract, and all were deemed to be local contractors. And therefore, whether or not they had any relationship to a veterans company is not something that we are privy to. And I don't know if Mr. Arnold can even answer that question as well. Mr. Arnold, can you answer that question?
This contract was bid with stringent state requirements for NWVE. I do not know about veterans participation, but they have quite a litany of participation goals that we will meet as part of this awarding of the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold, okay?
The litany and the actual the application are 2 different things. I would still need to know, and when you're talking about contract reform, if you do not have an inclusive and diverse representation as it pertains to minority, women, veterans, and disabled entrepreneurs, then you are in violation of the law. And that applies to all of you sitting there first, before it applies to those of us sitting out here who have to pay for it.
Okay, any other comments from the legislators? There being none, all those in favor of contract B21 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Aye. The contract passes 4-0 to 3. All right, the next one is B44, a resolution authorizing the county executive to award and execute a contract between the county of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and RJ as Salamander, joint venture. Motion, please. Moved by legislator Dunn, second by legislator Capella. Any comments from the legislators on this contract? All right. Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of contract B44 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the contract passes 4-0 to 3. Contract B52, a resolution authorizing the county executive to award and execute a contract between the county of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and Peter Salamander and Sons, Inc. Motion, please. Moved by legislator Dunn, second by legislator Capella. And we have someone here to speak on this contract, Mr. Davenport.
Good afternoon, Joe Davenport, Nassau County Department of Public Works. This is a publicly bid construction contract for the installation of a cross link to serve a new pump station within the village of Hempstead. We have received 6 bids on this contract. The bids were evaluated by the Department of Public Works. We are recommending award of the contract to Peter Salamander and Sons as the lowest responsible bidder. Of note, there was one bid of a lower amount, but that bidder had requested to be released from his obligation as low bidder.
Any questions of Mr. Davenport? Any public comment? There being none, all those.
Yes. I wish you would look us because there is public comment, even if it's
Yes,
just for me.
And I do have that number as well on my
I
list.
see it, I see it.
And again, I pose the same questions with regard to this particular project, since especially it is in Hempstead, which has a predominant minority community. I'm asking again with regard to these contracts. I just find it amazing that no one up there is even asking the question as to the diversity of those who have submitted the bids for this particular work. And again, I am asking with regard to the federal funding requirements and the legal implications involved in not ensuring that our veteran entrepreneurs and veteran employment base is not involved in this to a significant degree. Nassau County does little to nothing as it pertains to ensuring that our veteran entrepreneurs get opportunities to grow in their capacity to create jobs for our veterans. And I think it is especially appalling since this is, as President Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, a day that will live in infamy.
Thank you.
President
There
are two comments.
excuse me. I did call for comments from the legislators.
Sorry. Okay, I was wondering if I could speak to Mr. Davenport for a second, because I just want to get this straight in my mind.
Yes.
Just a quick question. The MWBE regulations that concern women and minorities and hopefully veterans too and all, what is your utilization process when you are getting bids in? How does that get utilized within your decision making?
This contract in particular has state funding associated with it through the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. There are goals, a 20% combined goal for MWBE participation. The contractor submits their utilization plan, if not as part of their bid, shortly thereafter to us. We evaluate it as part of our award review process. We've shared that utilization plan with the Nassau County Office of Minority Affairs. They've shared it with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, and the plan submitted by Peter Scalamandri and Sons has gotten everyone's okay at this point. That isn't the end of the process. Throughout the contract, we always strive, if the contractor can do better, if there's an opportunity to bring in additional participation, we ask for them to do that. Again, it's just an ongoing process throughout the course of the contract, but there are goals for this contract of 20% participation in MWBE.
Would it negate an awarding of a contract if a firm did not follow these regulations?
We've not had that situation, but it is a requirement of the contract. Again, with the state funding that comes along with this contract, they must meet that goal. And again, we haven't had a contractor submit a bid to us and say, no, I'm not going to meet the goal. All the contractors we work with, they put forth their good faith efforts. If a contract has a particular piece of equipment that might be highly specialized, you can only get it from very few manufacturers and there's no opportunity for participation,
right,
the contractor can get a waiver on that cost. So essentially, if a contract's $1 million, that specialized piece of equipment is $200,000, their goal applies to the remaining $800,000 on the contract. That's something that happens on a fairly regular basis. I wouldn't say every contract, but we've never had a contractor refuse to meet the MWBE
to meet the specifications. All right, thank you.
All those in favor of B52 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passes 4-0 to 3. The next item is E229. And E229 is a contract with Parks and Party Up Productions, and it is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute a contract between the County of Nassau acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Parks, Recreation, and Museums, and Party Up Productions. Motion, please. Moved by Legislator Dunn, second by Legislator Kupferl, and who's here to speak on this item?
Good afternoon, Eileen Creve, Department of Parks. This is a service contract between the Parks Department and Party Up Productions in the amount of $50,000 from Hotel Motel funding. It was put out to bid where there were 169 notices sent, 25 open, 10 accepted, and as part 2 we received 1 submittal from Party Up. Their service is to provide and enhance any kind of props, any other kinds of equipment we need to perform at Lakeside or any of our other events that we hold in our parks.
Any questions of Ms. Creve? Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E229 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Aye, 403. Next one is E230, a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and DMV engineers and architects, PC. Motion, please. Moved by legislator Dunn, seconded by legislator Nicoletto. Anyone here to speak on this item?
Joe Davenport, Nassau County Department of Public Works. This is an item for authorization to enter into a personal services agreement with the firm of DeVerta and Bartolucci. The department prepared an RFP for design services for minor improvements to 5 pump stations in the Glen Cove service area. Primarily, it's the installation of backup generators and automatic transfer switches. The department received 4 proposals in response to the RFP. They were evaluated. DMV was technically rated the highest, most qualified firm, and they also submitted the lowest cost for the services.
Any questions of Mr. Davenport? Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E230 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passes 4-0 to 3. The next one is E231, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Office of Human Resources and Davis Vision, Inc. Motion, please. Moved by legislator Dunn, seconded by legislator Capel. Okay, anyone here to speak on this item? No one here on this item?
Press that red button.
David Andrews, I'm the Assistant County Payroll and Benefits Director. I was asked to come in case there were any questions. We administer this contract. This benefit, this is actually the optical benefit for employees and retirees that expires at the end of this month, and we need a new contract. It's a benefit for employees and retirees.
Any questions from the legislators? Any public comment? There being none, all those in favor of E231 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The item passes 4-0 to 3. The next item is E232, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works, and Hazen and Sawyer Malcolm, part of the Water Division of Arcadis. Moved by legislator Dunn, second by legislator Nicoletto, and we have Mr. Davenport.
Good afternoon, Joe Davenport with Public Works. The item before you is for authorization to execute an amendment to an existing personal services agreement with the joint venture of Hazen and Sawyer, Malcolm Kearney. This firm had previously been retained under an RFP process to assist the county in the recovery efforts regarding the Bay Park sewage treatment plant and the damaged pump stations, damage occurring as a result of Superstorm Sandy. This firm has basically acted as an extension of the department in helping us implement and manage the Sandy Recovery Program. Through their efforts, they've assisted us in procuring the FEMA Public Assistance Grant of $830 million. This firm provides field staff, approximately 40 people who are involved in our projects and managing these projects, seeing that the construction is implemented properly in accordance with the approved plans and specifications, as well as assisting us in the reimbursement process with FEMA.
Any questions of Mr. Davenport on this item? Any public comment?
Yes.
Yes, I have your slip. You may speak, Mr. Meredith.
Thank you so much.
I have a question with regard to the purpose of this amendment as it pertains to were the goals met with the additional contract itself and the terms of the contract? This company, what is the framework of this company? Because this company clearly was awarded the contract before there was discussion with regard to the contract reform. And thirdly, again, with regard to the statements about good faith efforts and just saying that these companies that get these contracts, they're getting documentation, they're submitting documentation that they will make a good faith effort to include minority women and, what does someone say, hopefully veterans. What is the actual goals that have been met? And if their goals are not met, what happens in that regard? If they have not achieved that 20% goal, but they've already been funded, is there some type of rebate that we receive?
We monitor the firm's activities throughout the course of their services to see that they are achieving their goals. In this particular instance with the FEMA public assistance funding, FEMA does not have specific MWBE goals. So for this contract, we fall back to the county's aspirations. It's Appendix EE that's attached to the contract. There is no hard goal. It's just that the firms are expected to make their best efforts to include MWBEs to the maximum extent practical. But the county itself has no formal goals. We have Appendix EE that requires good faith efforts to include MWBE firms.
And could you repeat that part, that the county has no goals?
The county has on its books Appendix EE, which lays out the process and procedures for inclusion of MWBE firms, but there is no percentage requirement as part of that.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Okay,
With all due respect, Presiding Officer, I wasn't quite finished yet. With regard to that being on the record and not by me, I think that it's important that we have some kind of awareness, again, as we are, as not we, all of you, the elected officials, have the responsibility to put into place some type of contract reform. Within that, there needs to be something of substance as it pertains to minorities, women, veterans, and particularly when you're dealing with federally funded projects, service-disabled veterans who are mandated to have a 3% participation in projects. But if we, within Nassau County, do not proactively address the fact that our veteran entrepreneurs are not given the resources and supports to build the capacity to reduce the 3 times the national rate of veteran unemployment, to keep our student veterans from fleeing this location because they cannot afford to live here.
Your 3 minutes have expired.
Fine. We have a serious problem.
thank you very much. And I'm going to ask you to please put your questions in writing because it would be certainly a lot easier for us to get you the information.
Well, unfortunately, I can't put the questions in writing until I get the information, and until the information is presented, I can't answer the
Fine,
questions.
thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All those in favor of personal service contract E-232 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? There are 4, 0 to 3. 4, yeah, 8, and 3 abstentions. The next item is E-233, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and CG 3PL Engineering DPC. Motion please. Moved by legislator Dunn, seconded by legislator Nicolello. And at this time, we're going to ask for a motion to table. Moved by legislator Capel, seconded by legislator Dunn. And those in favor of tabling E-233 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, the item is tabled. Okay. The next item is E-234, a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and RVA Group. Motion please. Moved by legislator done, second by legislator Nicolello. All right, and
Kenneth Arnold, Public Works. Item 234 is a personal services agreement with RBA Group for the design services associated with the improvement of Boston Boulevard between the Long Beach Bridge and Long Beach Road. It was a personal service agreement. RBA was the highest technically ranked firm, not the lowest cost proposal, but the adequate supply of the personnel and labor to efficiently finish the job on time.
any questions or comments for Mr. Arnold? Any public comments? There being none, all those in favor of E34 signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passes 4-0 to 3. Okay, the next item is I believe E235, a contract with the personal services agreement, between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works, and Hazen and Sawyer Malcolm Burns, the Water Division of Update. Moved by legislator Dunn, second by legislator Nicolello. Mr. Davenport.
Joe Davenport, Department of Public Works. This item is an amendment for the same firm as item E232. We've separated the two amendments as one amendment, scope of services fully funded through the FEMA Public Assistance Grant. The other amendment, services, are either funded through the county's capital plan, or we do have funding through the New York State EFC Storm Mitigation Loan Program, a combination grant and loan. But again, they're helping us in the recovery effort. The other two amendments are just separated based on the outside funding sources.
Any questions or comments of Mr. Davenport? Minority Leader Abrahams.
All right, Mr. Davenport.
Very good, thank you.
My comments are actually not directed towards you, but my comments are directed towards the process. Here, this legislature is expected to take upon consideration a $40.2 million amendment that is coming before us without any reforms in place. And this is the mere reason why we need the reforms to be in place when this type of stuff. Now, I trust and feel that your office has done its due diligence to ensure that the process has been, to the best of your ability, has been treated with a fair, each process fair. But that being said, this legislature needs the proper disclosures in place so that we can have that confidence and we can exhibit that confidence to the general public. I couldn't see without it, I could not understand why we would take the steps towards approving this amendment. $40 million of taxpayer money without having the proper contract reform disclosures that we've been talking about for the last 7 months. To me, this seems to be a little bit unconscionable. But that, by no stretch of the imagination, Mr. Davenport, is that a knock on what you have been able to do? I've known you for quite some time, and I think you've always demonstrated the ability, to the best of your knowledge, to provide this legislature with truthful and responsible answers. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Any public comment on item 235? Yeah. 235? Yes.
Real briefly, just again, for the record, and since this is under a different jurisdiction and New York State does have specific mandated goals, just want to have a reaffirmation, so to speak, with regard to what process is in place and, in fact, who is actually going to be involved to make sure that the stated goals have been met, and if the goals have not been met, what are the actions in place to make sure that taxpayer money, as well as diversity and inclusion, are in the forefront in terms of safety? Because I don't see it. I have not seen it, and I've worked very diligently, particularly with New York State, with regard to their minority women and veteran outreach components. And if the county itself is not aware and not actively pursuing that, how do you really think that you're going to have contract opportunities that are going to be diverse and inclusive? And I'm within my 3 minutes, thank you. And I'm trying to write it down on the volumes of paper there are nothing on this committee at this time.
Ms. Bernadette, to please submit those questions in writing so that we can give you a written statement. Okay?
I'm trying to use as much paper that has.
No, I'm
items on
talking
this
to
committee as
giving it to the clerk so that the clerk will get it to the right person. Get to the answer. All right, the item is E235. All those in favor of E235 signify by saying aye. Any those opposed? And for the extensions of 3. So we have 4 to 0 to 3. The next item is E236, which is a personal services agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Nassau County Department of Public Works and Lockwood, Kessler, and Bartlett, Inc. Motion approved. Moved by legislator Dunn, seconded by legislator Nicolau. Okay, and then Mr. Davenport.
Good afternoon, Joe Davenport, Public Works. This is an amendment to an existing personal services agreement with Lockwood, Kessler, and Bartlett. This firm was previously retained under a competitive RFP process to provide construction management services for the consolidation of Cedar and Lawrence salt plants into the county's wastewater system. The actual new construction work is complete, or some delays